The cut and thrust of an epic first leg of the Volvo Ocean Race took its toll on boats, hardware and crews alike. 2 broken masts, 1 gashed hull, 2 broken teeth and a broken foot meant that repairs and recuperation were the order of the day. Task 1 was to get Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing and Team Sanya's boats shipped to South Africa. Whilst the container ships and their precious cargo steamed towards Cape Town, Team Sanya's shore crew worked around the clock constructing a replacement bow section. Puma was forced into an unexpected vacation, awaiting the arrival of help on the remote outpost of Tristan da Cunha, a logistical nightmare for shore manager Tim Hackett.
To go from Cape Town where we have a cradle.
Just been trying to organise a ship to get out to the boat, which has been a bit of a struggle. Can't just call one up and expect something that will do the job and be able to get to the yacht in time. And also getting the mast over from the US. And we're just trying to finish setting up the base here and do what we can to prep for the boat's arrival.
Abu Dhabi and replacement mast was the first of the wounded vessels to reach South Africa.
It isn't how we wanted to arrive in Cape Town, but it's taken a lot of work to get this organised, and I'm very relieved to get the boat off the ship safely, and here we are at the base, and we got one stage to go now, which is to cure the new rigging and get ready for leg 2.
And as Team Sanya rolled into town, it was time for their shore crew to fit their piece of the giant carbon fibre jigsaw puzzle into place.
Hopefully in the next 2.5 to 3 days the guys will get the outside finished so that Ian Lovering and his fairing and painting team can get on to bringing our rainbow coloured boat back to reality, and at the same time the guys will move inside and finish all the laminating inside. So doing it like that, it means hopefully we'll all come to a finish point at about the same time.
Team Bremen was the last container ship to arrive with its rescued freight of a grateful Puma boat and crew, delighted to see their friends and families after a mammoth 31 days at sea.
I'd love to say that this is the way we drew it up when we left Alicante, but unfortunately it wasn't. But you deal with the hand you're dealt, and I think our guys dealt with the hand as well as ever could be expected, both onshore and offshore. But the job's not over. Unfortunately, we got a boat that we still have to get in race-ready shape in a couple days.
Against all the odds, Puma won its race against time, and all 6 boats have taken their place on the starting grid for leg 2 of the Volvo Ocean Race. Emotional scenes as ever dockside here in Cape Town, with skippers and crews farewelling friends and family for the second time in the Volvo Ocean Race as they prepare to head out on leg 2 to Abu Dhabi. Knowing the usual dangers that lie ahead over 7,500 kilometres through the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, the farewells from Cape Town are always tinged with apprehension, more so this time because of the spread of piracy, which will see the yachts being put on a ship and taken around the danger zone before resuming the race in safe waters.
We ended up with nowhere that we could sail that we could put a hand on our heart and say that there's a chance you'd get through, so shipping became the only option.
The sailors comfortable with the decision based on minimising the risk to boats and crews.
I think they've done everything they can to minimise the risk, I mean, the obvious thing that you always think of is that, well, why wasn't there just a naval support or something up through that area? But the reality is, as we've found out, is that, the Navy can't do 25 knots for 5 days in a row.
I think the organisers have done a great job. I mean, it's a difficult position. It's completely out of our control. It's something which didn't really exist to this extent when the route was planned.
Ian Walker's primary goal now to get Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing first into Abu Dhabi. What a reception he'll get at Azam's home port, the first time the Volvo Ocean Race has visited the Middle East. Ian would also be anxious, of course, to secure as many points as possible on leg 2 to try and hoist Abu Dhabi up the table, currently dominated by Telefonica, the Spanish boat extending its lead over camper with Emirates Team New Zealand after they were respectively first and second in yesterday's V&A Waterfront import race. Ken Reid, you're out there. You're approaching the start line. This is pretty good.
What a concept, huh? I got to be honest, I think maybe in my Volvo career I've never looked forward to a leg as much as this one right now. Just, you know, the old saying, we just got to get back on the saddle, you know, and I think the entire crew feels the same way.
The difficulty you have, I guess, is that it's a really tricky leg.
Yeah, but, you know, they're all tricky in a way. I think we got a Navigator who has a really solid weather background, and you know, I'll take our chances if it's tricky weather-wise. You know, now that I say that, it's probably going to bite us in the you know where. But no, I think we're okay.
Describe the atmosphere, the mood amongst the crew heading out now.
Anxious. You know, yesterday was good for us in one sense that we know we can go thrash the boat around now, but on the other sense, I think we got a little unfinished business because we feel like in a way we gave it away yesterday. That should have been ours. Well, it was our race to lose after the first lap, and we figured out a way to lose it.
Okay, Ken, we wish you well. All the very best, mate, and
thanks.
Sail well.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Frank Camas on Groupama. How are you going to approach this leg?
Well, we approach this leg as usual. We try to do a good start because I think the first day is very good to be in front because the weather forecast is good for the leading boat in the next day. And for now, it's very, very difficult to know exactly what is the option we have to do in the next day. So just wait and see.
How tricky are you expecting this leg to be? Because it's strange weather.
Yeah, strange weather, especially for the first 3 days. After, I hope we go in the steady wind. But for now, we have to go around some low pressure, very small low pressure, and we have to move like that with this wind. But it's not sure now. We have to go in the east, and then we wait a big high pressure. So depending now which low pressure we can use for the first days.
Okay, thanks very much for talking to us, Frank. Bon chance.
Merci.
Mike Sanderson on Sanya. This is going to be a pretty fickle sort of leg. How can you make it yours?
I think this is exactly what we need for Team Sanya. I mean, I think the interesting thing about this league is, you know, we've possibly got as much chance as anyone else. The guys have done a fantastic job in the preparation of the boat, and we've had Mike Quilter and a very experienced team working with Axel the Navigator on options. And I don't think this is going to be a drag race. I mean, at this stage, it's not looking like it. So it's a tactical minefield out there. So this could be one for us.
What's making it a minefield? What's Mike Quilter, as your weather expert, told you to expect?
The interesting thing is, you know, we've got a low sitting down off the southern tip of Africa, and the big question is, you know, are we going to be quick enough to get down there to hook onto it? And then there's another little heat low spinning off the eastern coast coming south, which is going to sort of play havoc with the fleet. And basically we've got to try and get east as quickly as possible to hook onto a high which sits out there, which will then start to propel us north. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting leg. And then of course we've got the doldrums, which in the Indian Ocean are pretty confused, and not like in the Atlantic, they go over a much wider space. And you know, the Russians last time 3-4 years ago got stuck there for 3 days after being right up with the leaders. So it's a pretty interesting place to try and get through.
Well, we wish you well, and
thanks very much. See you soon.
Almost ready for the off out here on Table Bay, nerves being calmed, and Peter Lester, as ever, they'll just be really glad to get going.
Well, that's right, to get away. There was certainly plenty of emotion on the dock before on departure, but now the boats are out, they're in race mode, and they've got this tricky little triangular course that they've got to do first, Martin, and then the conditions in the bay are quite light at the moment, but outside there's quite a lot of wind, so sail selection at the beginning. So this is what we've got pre-start. We do this triangle start, up around the top mark, back to the start finishing area, then out to an offset mark, and then they head off to Abu Dhabi, and it's after that last point, Martin, we're outside and they start going down towards the Cape Point, that it really starts to get tricky. Big sea state and quite a lot of wind.
And this is the way where they're going, up through, from Cape Town, up through the Indian Ocean. There's going to be a little bit of a hiatus there regarding pirates, but the eventual target in the end is Abu Dhabi, and as we were saying before, how great it would be if Ian Walker could take Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing into there. So that's the race course, and we're out here at the start. The fabulous scene of Table Bay and Table Mountain in the background there. On the water for us is Jerry Kirby, Volvo Ocean Race veteran. Jerry, how's it looking out there?
Just like Peter said, it's a bit of a light breeze in the start area. The boats are starting to put their roller furling sails on, and there's a difference already of opinion. Camper's got a masthead, and 5 of the other boats are running with fractional reaching sails. So we'll see how it works out once they get into their roller furling sails.
Now we're looking at Camper at the moment, and sail selection further down the track, something that's pretty vital, Peter.
Well, it is, because of the effect of Table Mountain. It means inshore, where the start is, there's actually not a lot of wind, but just offshore there's a lot of wind and big waves. So some big sail decisions, especially when they go to their headsail as they exit from Cape Town, will be quite tricky. But we can see the effect there on the graphic of Table Mountain. There's a big wind shadowing effect actually in the start area, and so it's almost like there's a split. We're going to do this little inshore and then into the actual offshore component, as we see a bit of a flyby there, Martin. Very impressive. Very impressive indeed. Now, Jerry, the boats have got something like 5,500 nautical miles to go to Abu Dhabi, and here they are jostling for the start. How important is the start? You've been out there when you've got that sort of distance ahead of you.
Well, it really is psychological. You don't want to start and drag out of port, but typically just getting away in one piece, not damaging the boat, you won't see anybody doing anything stupid. But it would be nice. It looks like it's a situation where the first guy to get into the pressure, to start beating offshore, could get a little leg up on the rest of the boats. We're into the last 50 seconds, and there's very little wind. We can see Camper have already got their code 0, or it might be something a bit bigger out, but there's absolutely no wind in the pre-start area. So coming up to 35 seconds to go, this first little bit of around half an hour or so is going to be very tricky for the teams.
30 seconds.
What indications there, Jerry, of some breeze filling in as we go to the start with just 20 seconds to go?
Yeah, there will be some breeze moving down onto the course, but the first part of this, from the start and the first quarter mile, will be very slow. And I would say, you've got to get your nose out. Groupama looks in a good position to take the pin, and then it'll be just a question of who gets into the pressure first.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
Well, in slow motion terms, they're off.
It is off.
Nobody exactly charging across the line at this stage.
Abu Dhabi Racing, good shape there with their, you can see they've got a fractional code, their fractional flying sail. This is, it's almost a bit of an anticlimax actually, Martin. It's starting in this very light air, but it's Abu Dhabi Racing.
Well, that's exactly what they would want. You were talking, Jerry, about psychological moments. I mean, here they are with their new rig, wanting to get out there, wanting to prove themselves. You can't go better than actually, just for that pure little bit of psychology, having the lead and actually building a little bit.
Yeah, they're into the breeze, they're off.
Yeah, and as they get further down the track, the breeze will pick up. So the first guys to poke the nose out could get a nice stretch in the first part of the race.
Now further on down this race course, that's what they're also talking about, about the necessity of trying to hook into one of these weather systems as they start tramping along. And I mean, very, very often the rich get richer as soon as they get in there.
Well, certainly looking at what they've got ahead, it's stages to get away from Cape Town out at this tricky little inshore. But offshore, Martin, only you know, an hour into the race, they could get up to 30 knots of wind. So I think we're in for a fascinating first few hours of the leg 2 of the Volvo Ocean Race.
Well, there's the lead from Virtual Eye that is being enjoyed. This is pretty slow at the back with Telefonica, the race leader. Well, they've had I wonder if they've got an issue there, because they're a long way back.
They look very parked. When the gun went, they were at the back of the pack, and they were in a big area of no wind.
Look how quickly they get up and running. I mean, Jerry, they've just taken off all of a sudden.
Now look at what's happening here, Martin. The two boats with masthead code zeros on, so that's Group Armour and Camper, and then you've got Puma tucked in with a fractional. But further out, Abu Dhabi Racing are into that freshening breeze. We can see on the horizon the difference, and they are up and off. They're already really stamping their authority. Ian Walker got a beautiful start. He's able to capitalise on that.
We're on board with Sanya at the moment. That's Tiger on the grinder, the builder from China. And Ian Walker there, Jerry, he's showing them a clean pair of heels.
Yeah, this is exactly what we talked about. First guy into the pressure, stretches away. But what'll happen is when they come back into the bay, the lead boats will lose that pressure, and the guys from behind will compress again. So they've got another tricky bit as they come back into the bay.
Well, we're on board with the race leaders at the moment. The guy there with the orange tablet, that's Jules Salter, the Navigator. And this looks like being a real navigator's nightmare, if you like, the rest of this leg. We keep on hearing it's going to be tricky. Jerry, you'll have talked to the guys on Puma. What were they saying about how they're going to handle this and how tricky it could be?
Well, I talked to several of the guys on all the boats, and everyone feels the same thing. The weather, once they get south of the Cape, is there's a lot of north routes and south routes that present themselves, and it's changing all the time. So everyone knows it'll be tricky, and we could see the fleet stay close going down to the point and then splitting as they hit the trough to go north or south.
Now that's interesting. Do you think they will split? I mean, I was talking to Chris Nicholson on Nico on Camper with Emirates Team New Zealand, and he was saying that he'd like to keep tight in because he doesn't want to get dropped off, and he thinks there'll be an inclination for the teams to want to stick together so that they don't get, as I say, dropped off.
Well, decision time, Martin, from the talk I had this morning with Mike Quilter, will actually be down when they start to enter the Indian Ocean, and the weather models are showing, you know, an either-or option. There is a northern route that takes you more up the African coast, or there's an eastern route to go a little bit further, head east immediately in the low pressure. And both of them have, a scenario that might be good, but of course that weather model will change over the next 20 hours before they have to make that crucial decision.
Oh, big decisions awaiting there, and that will be, well, I mean, that's going to be the race won and lost, as we saw on the first leg. And he who hesitates appears to be lost. So there's going to have to be some positivity, would you say, Jerry?
Yeah, it'll be a critical decision which way you go when you get into that transition zone. But it's very similar to the leg last time to Cochin. They're headed, not far from Cochin, and the feeling is that there are other areas where there could be opportunities to pass if you do miss the opportunity. I think you're right about that. Nico and all the other guys, no one wants to get dropped off, so the tendency will try and be to stay with the competition.
Now, Jerry, from your experience doing this race, leaving Cape Town, there's that northern route option, there's the eastern. What would be your preference, given your experience doing this one?
It's funny. I actually was talking to Kelvin Harrop, and he said whatever your choice was today, it'll change tomorrow. So
you're not committal. Come on.
Well, you know, you got to keep your options open, and what'll happen 24 or 36 hours from now, there'll be a different weather decision.
Well, look at these boats humming. We're watching this on the close-up on the camera. Our cameraman is doing a remarkable job keeping up with Puma, because they are humming along, as is the fleet. The breeze is filled in, and it's quite a sight from our perspective. Here we're looking at Camper now, absolutely flying that bow out, and all the crew have had a good soaking already. So this is a great sight from our point of view. What's it like for you, banging along in the water there, Jerry?
Yeah. This boat is not quite like the Cat we had in Alicante, so it's a rough ride, but the water state is much calmer than yesterday, and so it's actually not bad at all. It's fun. We're ripping along next to Puma and Groupama, and it's a nice start to the race so far.
Now, Jerry, you're looking up towards Mark 1. Campers down to leeward. Are they still laying that mark?
You know, I think they're going to be fine. Worst case is they could put their jib up and reach up to it, but they're low of the mark right now. And this is where, you know, Groupama with the masthead code 0 has really eased the sheet. They're twisting it so they can stay high. You know, I'd say Abu Dhabi and Puma with their fractional zeros have the right sail call on this one.
On board with Camper and Emirates Team New Zealand, Chris Nicholson there at the helm. You can see how wet they're getting already, with the wash absolutely spraying across the boat, and they're really moving along very nicely. And how must Ian Walker feel, do you think, Peter? That I mean, this is perfect for him. Confidence is what they needed to get back in their boat and get away. It's flowing a bit. He's happier with the rig now, but what a confidence boost.
A great start by Abu Dhabi, Ian Walker, and it looks like a very good call on sail selection. He's got that fractional sail on, so he can just make sure that he keeps his windward height to lay through onto the mark. We're down on board Abu Dhabi, and it's just a good example there of how small it is down below. Sails being stacked. It's not exactly the lap of luxury down there, Martin.
That was Wade Morgan and Simon Fisher in there. And the worst thing is, of course, is that they're wearing the sort of the rubber neck wetsuits to keep them dry, and you go down there and suddenly you're going from the Arctic into a sauna. And that will be very uncomfortable. Look at this boat.
Great shot of the boats.
And what a shot there of Table Mountain in the background. Azam, determined in Arabian, absolutely flying along out here on Table Bay. What a great scene. Lovely as well for the spectators around here to know that they've got this little race around the can, so the boats don't instantly disappear. They're going to head back in there, give the good folk of Cape Town a final look at the fleet before they head off. And here we are with Groupama. Point to prove these guys have got. They've kind of been, I mean, I know they're lying third, but it's kind of been indifferent a bit.
Well, here's a Genoa being hoisted on Groupama. So they must be getting down towards that first mark, but we can see Genoa going up underneath the code 0. That would indicate that they're getting down towards the bottom third of the, we can see the mark there now on virtual. So Abu Dhabi Racing are right on the ley line to the mark, along with Groupama, Puma. We can see the Camper are below the tracking line to that mark, so they might have to
climb up a bit,
take that sail off early, their code 0, and actually reach up to the mark.
Okay, we're just looking before there, Jerry, at this fantastic view of Table Bay. You've sailed all around the world. Is there a greater backdrop? It's fantastic.
Africa is one of the most spectacular places you can sail into and out of. It's unlike any place else.
Must be marvellous to come into it. I mean, you know, these guys, 30 odd days at sea, and then you finally see that be the most welcome sight in the world, wouldn't it?
Yeah, everyone. Table Mountain is a tick off for every guy that does offshore sailing, does the Volvo. That's one of the big sort of rites of passage to sail into Table Mountain.
Well, she's an absolute beauty, I tell you. We're looking at a big wide shot at the moment, the city in the background, and we've got Abu Dhabi up in the lead. Telefonica, our race leader, overall race leader, having to play catch-up unusually.
Yeah, they got a bit pinned at the start. There was, as we remember, no wind at that start-finish, or start, and it will be the turning mark area. And Telefonica got a little bit dropped off at the start by the bunch, really. But Martin, in context of how far they got to go, well, they've got to go 5,430 nautical miles. I don't think that will be a
Won't be the
big
biggest
concern
issue.
really for Telefonica.
Yeah, they just went by us, and Shabby and Ika don't look terribly concerned right now.
So here's a manoeuvre coming up. The boats are going to come out. They'll go round the mark. It'll be a right-hand turn at this mark and the starboard. As Abu Dhabi now are into the manoeuvre, they roll up their
Give it heaps is the call on the grinders there. Okay, now that's pretty crucial that you keep a bit of pressure on to get that to roll in right. We've seen some awful errors with that sail before now.
Ian Walker just bringing the boat around. The boat jives through. We can see the rolled up sail now dropped onto the deck as Abu Dhabi lead at the first mark, with Camper coming in behind Groupama. So Groupama have had a good start to this leg as they also roll up their code 0.
Great scenes here at the top mark. Camper coming in behind Groupama. That sail is nicely furled up. And they go into the jibe. There's Chris Nicholson at the wheel, watching the backstays flick behind his head. On they come. Adam Minoprio in the foreground there. And there's Groupama with Camper and Emirates Team New Zealand giving chase. Ken Reid following in on Puma.
Puma's coming round with good pace on behind Camper. Camper came round and did quite a hard circle turn, and that meant that Puma could come right through underneath.
At speed.
Well, there's something going on there with Groupama. Look, Groupama's got a problem. They've got a problem on Groupama. They haven't come round that mark clean at all. So it looks like, they've got a problem there. I don't know if Jerry might be able to see it out on the water. Jerry, what are you seeing on Groupama?
Well, we're headed back to the other marks. They're a couple of miles away, but what happens when you drop a code 0, one of those roller furling sails? If you don't get a clean roll and then drop it to weather, you've got to put the boat head to wind and flick it on the other side of the headstay. So that's probably what's happening over there.
Yeah, I think Jerry's right. They didn't get a clean...
There it is, the sail flapping up at the front there.
Yeah, they didn't get a clean furl, and now we can see that the furled sail's actually to leeward of the Genoa. So Groupama, just a few little issues. Sanya comes around the first mark.
Well, they'll be glad that they're well in front of Telefonica, just in the back of the picture. Maybe that was, I hate to say it, maybe that was a touch of the commentator's curse, because we were just saying as we were watching the furl of the sail on Abu Dhabi, who were first round, and now you can see that nicely coiled sail here on Sanya dropping down. We're saying how tricky that manoeuvre can be. If that sail gets away with you, it can be awfully expensive and a real handful. It's a big sail.
Oh, it's a big sail and it's heavy. And we can see now Telefonica coming into Mark 1. Their code 0 being rolled up, furled. And the trick is to get it furled and then get it dropped on the new windward side. Don't want it to blow onto that leeward side, so the sail is now furled. Telefonica will come round the mark.
Now, they'll not be happy chappies on this boat. They're not used to trailing. This has been a pretty disappointing start for these guys, protecting their lead. Big lead that they've got at the top of the table, and bit of a disappointment, that one, Pete.
Well, it is, but Martin, in context of
long way to
the
go,
leg,
yeah.
It's an awful long way to go as they now come around the mark. Now, it's going to get tricky again in at Mark at Mark 3. That's going to be right back in by the harbour.
I wonder if they had an issue or if they were just caught in a dead spot at the start on the Spanish boat.
I just don't think they were in any wind, and they were back from the line a little bit. And Ian Walker, of course, Abu Dhabi Racing, they were right up on the line, and they were into the freshening breeze, and they just extended on their lead. But now the dilemma for Ian Walker will be he has to go back into that light patch before they can head off out to Mark 4.
Okay, maybe Jerry can tell us what the conditions are like that they're heading back into.
Yeah, the breeze has actually filled in that light area. It's right up at the start boat. It's when they get closest that they may slow down. They may not even need their roller furling sails at that point, the way the breeze looks at this point.
Back on board camper, that's Tony Ray, the second oldest man on this Volvo Ocean race. He's 50. 2 days younger than Ken Reid, which Ken Reid does not like being reminded about.
Well, and talking about Ken Reid, he's certainly done good work at that first mark. They trailed both Group Armour and Camper at Mark 1, but with Group Armour had a few handling difficulties. We saw Camper come around and they didn't really sheet on that quick, and that has allowed Puma to jump through and gain 2 spots.
Go on board camper.
We pushed it a bit. Daryl did an awesome job getting the chute down on the high, so that we managed to sneak around inside the group arm. It's all going pretty bit of lowered, and we're going right. See how he.
Andrew McLean saying that they seem to be doing pretty all right from the few beeps that we were hearing through with on board the camper boat, and now we're back with Ken Reid and Puma. Now we're looking at Puma at the moment, Jerry. Always nice to have a word about your boy on board. What are they saying about the atmosphere on board there now with the new rig and everything in, and the general sort of mood and feeling about the boat?
They've got a very good chemistry with the team. They feel very confident that the rig is fine. So, they're ready to just go out and try and take points and get back up towards the top of the leaderboard.
Now, we talk about the chemistry on these boats. From your experience, what are the essential ingredients to make it work?
Well, first, you can't be that smart. Second, no. It takes all sorts of people. Tough. It really, a very even keel and able to essentially suffer for long periods of time and not have it put you in a bad state of mind. But the Volvo sailors are definitely a different breed. Good sense of humor is a big help.
Now, what would you describe as being a good sense of humor? I can imagine it's pretty wicked most of the time.
Yeah, it's pretty wicked. So. There are, over the years, you have to have at least one guy that's always got something funny to say or sees the bright side of it. And Puma's got a few jokesters, but they do have some quiet guys too. I know that Jared Henderson just got on Moose's boat, and he's like a human happy pill. He's
Is that why he's called Beach?
Beach, yeah. Well, when he was little, he was a big round kid, but no, he's a really funny guy, and I guarantee that Senya, it doesn't matter where they are, they'll be having a great time. And they just also got Dingo on the boat, so those are 2 fantastic sailors with a great sense of humor.
The essential ingredient, a good laugh. Laughter always the best medicine, as Abu Dhabi continues its charge around this inshore course.
Abu Dhabi just have come around Mark 2, and now they'll head back towards the harbour to Mark 3. So they're just harden up on the wind a little more. I don't think they're hard on the wind, but they just, it's a slightly tighter angle. But this one, if we go back and look at Camper and Puma have been the mover in this group. They have sailed right through the leeward of Camper. Are they advanced enough to be ahead at the second mark?
Yeah, looks like it from our eye. What about from yours, Jerry?
Yeah, right now Puma's looks like a bit bit forward and to leeward, and they'll be in a good position to get second around this mark. It's neck and neck though. Right now, Camper's just got big pressure, so they may get in there. Nope, they're bearing away. They're going to take Puma's stern.
The rules of the road came into play there. We could see on board on Puma, Kelvin Harrop went aft to indicate that at the zone, the two boats that met zone, that Puma were far enough advanced to prevent Camper having the rules, having the rights at the mark. You're not allowed to barge in. Chris Nicholson didn't want to foul out, so that was the reason of the course change.
Big dip. Well, it's neck and neck now, yes.
Good start. It's been a very good start for the two boats that had, that broke masts in the first legs.
It's amazing.
The first leg that...
Yeah, again, it's a good confidence boost. And looking at the shots of these boats, you know, we talk about them smoking, and they almost literally do, because they're so fast, they turn the spray at the sort of top of the wave into what just actually does look like smoke. They're so quick.
And the boats, Martin, in the bow sections are very full. They've got a lot of volume, and that means that of course any weight coming off the bow looks impressive, but they are impressive. They're fast, especially this crest reaching on board Group Armour. Oh, that big tug there's a little bit in the way, isn't it?
Not exactly a mark of the course.
Having to just go behind.
Okay, there we've got Devil's Peak, Table Mountain, and of course Lion's Head in the background there as Sanya come thundering around. You know, they'll be pleased that they're not last, and that's a bit of a feather in the cap. And that new bow and everything, it looks just perfect.
Towards Sanya. You can see that they've got a slightly different concept of Genoa also. They've got a high clew, almost looks like a reaching type sail, as opposed to the low clewed sails that you see on the rest of the boats.
Oh, a little bit of a tangle down here at the bottom of the stern of this. Looks like a big ocean going tug here.
Camper just there wanting to clear their wind and get to windward of Puma. See, they came around behind the Fairmont summit and took a bit of weather gauge.
They're a sight, aren't they? What a sight. Looking at
outboard sheeting there on board Puma with the Genoa sheeted right out on the rail, opening the angle.
Interesting what you were saying about the high clew on Sanya. I mean, we know that certainly on the camper boat, some of the damage done by the sea, the pressure of the sea catching in the bottom of that wave when they're heeled over like this.
Well, and I think that's probably a factor for maybe the thinking of the sailmaker, the sail design guys on Sanya, that maybe they just don't want the water to affect the foot of the sail, because in the ocean with a lot of waves coming through the foredeck, if it gets caught into the sail, you can bust them.
Well, that's exactly what did happen. Ripped the clew off the sail on board camper with Emirates Team New Zealand.
See, it's getting lighter now as
a little bit.
Abu Dhabi heads back
Jerry looking soft to us and to you.
Yeah, I'm still out here by Telefonica and Sanya. It does look like it's getting a bit softer inshore, but it looks like there'll be enough breeze for everyone to carry through in similar positions, and then they'll start to beat up the shore and head out, essentially out of town.
But it's definitely getting lighter now. We can see the heel angle of Abu Dhabi. They're sitting more upright as they come back into the lighter zone. And we can see the mark there. We're going towards the orange marker buoy. That'll be Mark 3. And it's in the vicinity of the start finishing line. And we can see on Abu Dhabi another sail actually coming up on deck.
Come on, please.
Rob Greenhouse there. Looks like he's trimming the mainsail. So the boats behind are a little more pressure, but Jerry, it doesn't look as light in here. You picked this one up. It's not like it was at the start. It's a little bit less pressure, but it doesn't look to be as troublesome as what the start was.
Yeah, it's a bit more filled in, and it's it's sort of the true sea breeze that's working right now.
On board.
There's action on board here on Abu Dhabi.
Dhabi.
They just shifted the Genoa down to leeward, but there looks to be plenty of breeze still as Abu Dhabi come into Mark 3.
The Volvo.
Camper looked like they might have rolled over the top of Puma. Now, Jerry, we were just talking about clue heights on Genoas, and Sanya have a different concept. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's their number 2, so it's clear that Moose feels that, you know, most of the time you've got the 2, you're in pretty heavy air, and having that high clue, it becomes a really effective reaching sail. I mean, you hit right on it. You don't want to blow that foot out with the waves. So I think what he did is with the high clue, he's got a multi-purpose sail. You know, he can take it in the number 2 range, and then he can crack sheets and double headsail sail with it and not worry about blowing it up.
See the water squirting out of the side of the hull just there on board Abu Dhabi. Nothing wrong with the boat. That'll be the water ballast being topped up.
So Abu Dhabi are around. They're off now. They're off out to Mark 4, but as they go out to sea, they're going to get into more pressure. And we might well see that Abu Dhabi, they've got another sail already on the deck. If the wind speed gets out of the range of the sail they got on now, they will actually have to change. Now, we've been talking about Sanya with her sail. She's probably, I think they've actually paid just a little bit of a price of using a heavier sail inshore so that they don't have to do a headsail change when they get out into the fresher wind speed.
Work going on the bow of Camper. Rob Salthouse on the left, and that's Mike Panatter, who lost his 2 teeth that we talked about right at the beginning of this broadcast.
Been another change here. Camper have got back over the top of Puma. So Chris Nicholson sets up to tack as Puma now comes around. You can see they've actually got a furled sail up to the hounds, up to the intersection where the forestay goes onto the mast. So they are looking possibly at a change. It's a bit of more of a reach back out to sea.
Now, Jerry, that was, so we were looking, I don't know if you're on the camera boat that was on that mark, but you looked like it was a bit of a close run thing with Camper there.
Well, actually, we're hammering upwind, and I'm holding on. We're headed out to get on Abu Dhabi's bow, but yeah, Puma and Camp were really close at that mark. Nico must have caught a pressure and rolled up over Kenny. So it's still, like we said, it's a frenzy right now, but in 4 hours when they're down the coast, it'll seem these differences won't matter much.
Now, Jerry, you're looking out towards Mark 4. How much wind's out there? Because in here, in at Mark 3, it's pretty light. Are these boats going to be looking at a headsail change?
I don't think so. The pressure looks, the sails they have on right now, they'll be able to carry for quite a while. You know, when they come out here, they're on the wind. It's a nice steady breeze, but it's not building. They won't be changing for the 4s.
So you're not seeing white water out there?
Yeah, there's white caps, but they can carry. I mean, it's still in the range of the 2s.
Team Sanya, Mike Sanderson heading out with that sail we were talking about. Down goes one of the dagger boards, and like we were saying before, we'll be pleased to be where he is because it's a change not to be at the back of the fleet. You've got to wonder what's going on with Telefonica. And really, going back to our race leader here, Abu Dhabi, well, what that and the whole essence of the psychology of this race around the cans, what a tonic that must have been for Ian Walker and his crew.
Ian Walker's certainly done very good work in this round the cans, around the marker buoys for the start of the second leg. He's got a commanding lead.
By contrast, Ike Martinez here on Telefonica, he will not be quite so chipper about where he's sitting, but as we keep saying when we look at these guys, there's a very, very long way to go. Jerry, they're about to start heading out, and I guess now, you know, they've done the kind of round the cans bit. What sort of happens now in terms of settling the crew down, getting into a watch system? When does that, you know, what's the feeling going to be like on board as we look at Ian Walker on virtual leading?
Well, the first thing they've got to do is beat all the way out of Cape Town, and with this wind angle, once they get a bit offshore, they'll flop over on the starboard tack, and they may be able to fetch all the way down to the end of Africa. I mean, that was the consensus this morning, and based on the wind we're seeing right now. So for the next, I'd say 3 or 4 hours, they won't even think about a watch system until they get settled in on a long tack, and then it's, you know, try and get back into the routine as quickly as possible. But Ian Walker, for sure, if you ever saw that picture of him after they recovered their rig, he looked like a broken man, but I guarantee he's got a different look on his face right now.
Well, they're looking great, and the man who we were watching just before while Jerry was talking to us, that was Adil Khalid, who's the 23-year-old, he's the grinder pit assist, there he is, Adil Khalid from the United Arab Emirates. He's one of the under-30s on board. He's the first Emirati in the Volvo Ocean race. And this is a dream start for him on what is, of course, the dream leg, because if Ian Walker can take Abu Dhabi first into Abu Dhabi, what a moment that will be. You've lived out in that part of the world, Peter. What will it be like?
It'd be huge for Ian or for the team if Abu Dhabi can lead it to her home port. But again, Martin, awful long way to go before the guys would start talking about that on board camper.
That said, though, I mean, you know, you do need these little psychological fillets to kind of lift you up. And there's the brains trust at the back of the boat with Chris Nicholson at the wheel, his co-skipper there on the right, Stu Ballantyne behind.
335.
Will Oxley there just calling the numbers.
Yeah, Will Oxley. Lot of pressure on the Navigator.
A lot of pressure.
Once they get out to sea, and they I think it's about 35 miles down to Cape Point, and then really, Martin, the tactical minefield, and all the navigators.
Well, they're hugely, they're hugely mindful of that, and we know Will Oxley kind of put his hand up and he dillied and dallied a little bit, and sort of fell in no man's land, making that early call through, you know, do you go west or do you go south on the first leg, and you could actually see on the tracking that they got badly caught out, and they were always playing catch-up from then on in, and it's not getting dropped off.
Oh, it's tough, and Jules Salter there on Abu Dhabi, he'll be a wonderful navigator as well. I think it's probably the most lonely job on the boat, because when you're getting it right, everyone's friend. If it's not going so well, it's pretty tough, you know, being a navigator psychologically.
And you hear all the stories about the navigators just falling asleep at their station, exhausted, and
huge pressure.
Huge pressure, because you're trying to read something that is a living thing. There's Jules Salter there on the right, hugely experienced, and you know they have to understand all the weather systems, what it might do. And they've got to make these decisions on, well, you know, they're on their own on the boat. It's not like they can have a chat with somebody off the boat.
Well, what tends to happen, Martin, is that they will have had a big strategy meeting this morning before they've left, all the navigators and the skippers and the teams. But as the weather pattern develops, the strategy will change and be modified. And certainly, I think it sounds to me as though the first 20-odd hours is pretty straightforward, and it's certainly down to the bottom of Africa, but then you've got to deal with the low pressure in the bottom of Africa to really take you on, as Mike Poulter said to me this morning, on the road across to the high pressure before you head north.
Now, Jerry, you'll have sailed with a lot of different navigators in your career. Describe them as a breed and what they require.
No, they're all, it's funny, they always, as soon as they get in, all the navigators end up at some pub. They tend to be Scotch drinkers. But, you know, it's funny, I've sailed with Will Oxley and Jules. Jules is a very funny man. He's quiet, dry sense of humor, but he doesn't get flapped. He makes a decision and goes with it. Will Oxley's the same, but like you said, when the sked comes out and you're going negative numbers, you know, the Navigator has to read that out. That's a lonely moment.
I'll bet it's a lonely moment. And I look here with Team Sanya, and you know, the way that we're, oh, what an
Martin,
amazing,
look at that, just to jump
just
in.
a scene.
Just a beautiful shot of
Great spectator
Cape Town.
fleet as well.
Big spectator fleet. That is just a champagne shot. We've got Camper, Puma, Group Armour, and a horde of spectator boats thundering out to sea. And we're still waiting to get out to Mark 4.
Jules again.
That's right. How's the leg going so far?
Yeah, good. Nice smooth start to the leg. A bit more relaxed than things were yesterday, that's for sure. But yeah, reach around the bay and just coming to the turning mark now, and we'll be hardening up on the wind, heading down to Cape Point and on our way to Abu Dhabi. So nice start for us, but a lot of work to come.
That's telling the story on board Abu Dhabi ocean racing. I mean, you can't beat that for a start. That's absolutely spectacular. Sparkling waters as Abu Dhabi leads the Volvo Ocean race fleet out of Cape Town.
Bragging rights.
Bragging rights.
It's a big
bragging
deal,
rights,
you know.
yeah.
I think having bragging rights for a great start, and even in an ocean race, it sets, you know, certainly a good tempo on board the boat. And of course,
well, we're hitting the ocean now. Here, this is a swell.
Well, the other thing that will happen, there has been a cold, you know, a low pressure to the west of Cape Town, and that means there'll be a big sea state out to sea where the boats are going to get into fresher conditions, but there's big waves out there up to 3 meters, and they're going to be straight into that in the next 20 hours.
Yep, this is the serious side of it now, and we're heading back out onto Camper.
Sail choice, Camper starting to stack. Of course, they're allowed to stack the sails on the windward side, gives the boat more riding moment, more stability, which equates to power and speed. And that whole stacking process.
They're flying out there again. Absolutely great scenes. Adam Menabrio. Can't see for his cap, but the hair's regrown on the top of his head that they shaved off as part of the humiliation of crossing the equator. Jerry, you'll have undergone your equator crossing ceremony. What did they do to you?
I had a pretty interesting. They did a bullseye on my head. So you know, everyone gets some sort of haircut. I noticed that Rome finally shaved his head. He looked like someone took a sand wedge to his forehead. So.
Now, Jerry, what's the worst you've done to someone else then?
I was a pretty kind King Neptune.
I don't think so.
It's all right, you can say that now that most of your sailing mates are out there on the water and can't talk to us and tell us the truth, I can imagine. Abu Dhabi thumping through the swells. We're looking at some terrific pictures here, Jerry, of Abu Dhabi just shrugging through, shouldering this swell. And they are powering out there. Absolutely, the waves washing down the boat.
They're at the mark, Martin. That's that's the last mark.
That's
mark
it.
4.
This is it.
So Abu Dhabi comes round the mark. We can see the trimmers sheeting on harder. They're going to now come onto the wind and head off down to Cape Point. The boats will probably stay on port for a bit longer. The wind direction is forecast to actually come aft, which means they'll spend the majority of the leg actually on a starboard tack down towards Cape Point.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting ready to tack on Abu Dhabi. They just put a couple of sails to leeward, so I'd imagine they'll be tacking and headed back in shore pretty quickly.
It's getting quite rugged out there. How are you coping, Jerry?
Oh, it's fine. We're stationary right now as long as we're not moving. It's a full-on, it's a workout staying on this cat. They're just smoking into this mark right now.
It is one wet ride on a...
Well, you can see the gears all up waterproof, the rubber necks around there, not particularly nice on the skin, I would imagine, after a couple of weeks sailing.
Yeah, that's a... Camper comes into that rounding mark. Mark 4 as they harden up on the wind also.
Just sheeting in that headsail. And now we've got Puma coming up. You give your boy a last wave there, Jerry, as he goes by.
Yeah, I don't think he's looking around right now. they're all probably head down and focused.
I think they are, and they're getting soaked. Ken Reid, the only one in the dry there. It's, high up on the high side on his tilted platform to keep him level on the boat. As we watch Group Armour approaching, Devil's Peak up there behind you with Table Mountain stretching out. These boats are machines. They're like, I've always described them as being a bit like a Hummer. They just sort of thump their way through.
First boat to tack. So Group Armour have come in around the mark. They've immediately tacked. So the making board, Jerry, the making board down to Cape Point must be starboard.
Yeah, the favorite tack will be starboard. So they must think that.
Here's a jumper. Nacho Gomez, one of our colleagues there, about to do the leap. There he goes. Oh, it'll be cold. Somebody I hope will pick him up. Okay, that's. I think is that. I think might be the only jumper that we've seen so far. We've had a few more in Alicante.
Water's a bit colder here.
Yeah, including Zinedine Zidane we had with a big grin on his face, who jumped off the back one of the boats as they were leaving Alicante, and that water was nice and warm back in November in Europe, but we know this is cold, cold water.
Sanya comes on the wind, grinding on.
Going back to the navigation issue now, this on Sanya, the navigator on Sanya is Axel Magdal, and he'll be hoping maybe he'll get the opportunity to do one of his flyers that won him a leg against all odds in an earlier edition of the race, when he took an absolute flyer and won the leg around Cape Horn. But it was a big gamble, and he stuck to his guns, and it sure paid off. And they're hoping on Sanya, of course, that it will become pretty fluky and funky, which would give them a chance to mix it up.
But Martin, a common thread seemed to have been this morning that most of the navigators were saying that they were going to play a conservative game, certainly initially on the second leg.
Well, as we say, we keep getting dropped off as the big fear. So what lies ahead for these guys? 2 to 3 weeks of sleep deprivation, freeze-dried food and all manner of sailing conditions, and for friends and family, 2 to 3 weeks of waking up at night wondering how their guys are coping. So as they leave Table Bay, we wish them well to their safe haven and onwards to a great welcome in Abu Dhabi. From Cape Town with the Volvo Ocean Race, goodbye for now.